You're listening to the Traffic and Conversion Show. I'm your host, Michelle Fernandez, and joining me today is Tomasha Suber, is a business coach and leadership coach that helps business owners grow and scale smart. With her diverse background in business operations, finance, and management, she focuses on delivering sustainable strategy, lean structure, and less stress through her programs and services. Tomasha is on a mission to show small business owners and leaders that they can prioritize business growth and personal happiness without sacrificing one for the other. Today, we're sharing the power of leadership and systems, so stay tuned. Hey there, welcome back to the show. It's Michelle, and joining me today is Tomasha Suber. Welcome to the show, Tomasha.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. We had a little bit of conversation, and I can tell this is going to be good. So can you start by telling us a little bit about you, who you serve, what you do, maybe even a little about your journey would be cool.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Tomasha Suber, and I am a business coach that focuses on growth and leadership. And my main mission is to help show small business owners and leaders that they can prioritize business growth and revenue and their personal happiness without sacrificing one for the other. And so in my business, I focus on sustainability, lean structure, and less stress. So that is like my primary framework that I'm working through with clients.
It's so good. Like, I think we can all relate. And everybody always feels like, oh, we have to have that balance where it's like, I heard I had dinner with one of my friends one time and she's like, it's really like a harmony. It's like, I feel like there's never going to be the balance. It's always working in harmony. And especially you hit on it when you said small businesses, because sometimes we're either solopreneurs or have like a small team and we feel like we have to do all the things and working all the time. So I'm loving that you have this together. How did you come to doing this? Were you in that position?
Yeah, so before I actually even stood out and was like, hey, I'm definitely going to go full time in my business. I was working more corporately in leadership and managerial roles. And I love all things. I've realized that I love all things operating a business. I was always just so entrenched and just so deep into it. And so like throughout my career, I've worked in sales, I've worked in marketing, I worked in ops and finance, and worked in like grants positions and events. And I realized that honestly, I didn't really care what department I worked in as long as I got to deal with like how it operated and was involved in the plans and the strategy to get to the end goal. And so I actually got laid off of my corporate job in 2018, and I was still kind of doing part-time the business. And at that moment, I decided within the next year, I'm going to make this thing a full-time thing. I'm all in and actually put all of my energy into it because I never desired to be a CEO. That's like a part of my story too.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that like literally within a year. Like I was full time, just working part time corporately because I still loved it. And I started utilizing my skills for small businesses. And normally I was working, again, for the bigger corporate companies. And I felt like it was a gap missing more in this online industry.
Mm-hmm. So true. So true. Okay. So today we are talking the power of leadership and systems. So let's start with systems because some of us, or I'm totally type A. So those are type A are like, give me more. I cannot have enough systems. And then there are some that are like my husband that are like, what? Like they're anti-systems, right? Well, let's start talking about that and really how it supports massive growth and especially in our businesses, right?
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to systems, I think like the first thing that I want to make sure that people understand and start talking more about is we need to go beyond the SOPs. I think the first things we think about when we hear the word systems is, like standard operating procedures and the process by which we do a thing. And we're thinking about all the things to deliver the client experience, right? Deliver on what we're selling to people. But I love to go beyond that when I'm talking about leadership and systems and start talking about how is it that the systems that you are creating and or ones that may be missing aren't serving you, the business owner. So often I see us so focused when we're growing the businesses and people get so lasered in on making sure the clients are happy, that you end up building this thing around you that causes you so much angst, right?
Mm,
And so the system that I like to start about is not just like the standard operating procedures, but also what is the plan for your team, right? What are the SOPs for your team to serve you,
mm,
right? Not just through them being task rabbits, but also building them up in a way that you are building a leadership team of people that can think and strategize, and not just folks that are going to do, that are waiting on your word and your command. And
mm.
we have to start thinking about what those systems look like and what that process looks like for you as a leader.
I love that because it's more than just I need an executive assistant to book my flights or whatever, pick up my laundry or whatever your executive assistant does. Oh,
Right.
I love this. Oh, okay. So, if we're using the word power, why is power important in leadership?
Ooh, I think power is important in leadership because being in a leadership position, you really are forced to learn how to utilize power, right? Not abuse it, but actually how to use it for your good, how to leverage it in a way that you're not just using it to move people, but you're also using it to elevate them. I feel like we all have access to power, but we're not necessarily using it to our advantage. And
Mhm.
so you need to know how to take your power and not just get people to do what you want them to do, but also get people to do the things that you know are going to be best for them, and in turn also be best for the company, right? Use your power to call people to a higher standard, using your power to create change in ways in which you would desire to see it happen. And so to me is saying like, hey, I'm actually going to take my position of authority and utilize that for good and for alternative measures other than what's commonly done.
I love that. It's so funny because when my daughter was growing up, I could tell she had these like innate leadership abilities, but she was a little bossy. Like
Oh,
I'm like, in what you're talking about, it's like, yes, she got people to move, but she was using her power not in the most effective way, because then what happens? All the other little girls are like, oh my gosh, she's just too bossy. I'm not going to now listen to her anymore. So then I had to figure out, how am I going to switch this whole bossy thing to this? So it really expands over to where we are as adults now, because sometimes we think, oh, well, we're the boss and we say so. Right.
right.
Because I want to see how you would handle this. So a lot of times what happens, or what I started to notice, even not only what I see with my clients, what I hear in my mastermind meetings, where it's like they have their team, whether they be contractors, but most of the time employees, where it's like the employees start to resent them because as they're scaling their business, they're making more money. And then they're kind of like, well, wait a minute, now you're making more money, so I should make more money, or I want to do this and you know what I'm saying? So it's like, as a leader, how would you get them to be on board with their vision, or how would you say to use their power to get them to feel seen, heard, appreciated, like that?
So one of the main things I think is important is that as a leader, you learn how to talk less and listen more,
Mm.
right? So we can get so used to being the voice to our clients that we don't realize that we're really overshadowing our talent on our teams. And so finding ways to allow your people and giving them that safety too is a part of it as well, giving them the floor and the opportunity to guide you. I think one of the most underused opportunities of leaders is allowing yourself to be guided by those that are on your team.
Mm.
Most of us don't hire people that aren't smart. Like, at least
Right.
we don't think so. We don't hire people that don't know their stuff, or that aren't skilled or understand what it is that you're trying to get them to do. However, we tend to treat them and dismiss them sometimes naturally in the way in which the average person is taught to lead. And so I would encourage that person to say, are you giving them the opportunity to guide you through some of
Mm.
the situations where you might be overlooking their advice, where you might feel like you know best? It's funny that you brought this up, because one of my commitments, I always do like my own leadership assessment of myself. And this year, this year when I came in for our first team meeting, I explained to them that one of my goals for them this year and my focus is to say yes more. I feel like when I got feedback from them last year, some of the things that they were telling me, and I looked at like, where could this all come from? I love to get to the root cause of things, and I realized that in some areas, I honestly just should have said yes.
Hmm.
Even when I felt unsure and when I felt like, "Oh, I don't know if I'd want to do that." Sometimes you need to just lean into them. And so I would encourage that person to consider that you don't know best. Consider that they
Mhm.
may know better than you, and more than likely they do.
Mhm. Interesting. I will be honest and say that I do struggle with that at times when I have somebody who's new and then like let's say, and not to say anything against the age, but maybe younger coming into this field and still learning the skills, like honing in on their skills and new. I tend to, not out loud, but in my brain, like say, oh, they don't know because they've never been in this, they've never done this, rather than
Mhm.
say, oh, let me be open and let's try a little bit of that. So I'm going to take that and you like seriously shift the way I'm thinking, because sometimes I'm like, oh, well, they're just new. They still have to learn, maybe once they realize that that's not a thing, or that's, but maybe it can, right?
Yeah, it's that rigidness that we can
Yes.
kind of like get stuck in, and that comment that you made about, well, this person, well, they don't really know, maybe they're new to this. Sometimes that's exactly what you need, is that approach
Mhm.
where they're not, because it's not about them not understanding, it's sometimes about them being unbiased,
Yes. And not
right?
coming with any predictions or coming from the past. So, how everybody goes from the past. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, it's like fresh. I really like this. Okay. You had mentioned that you do self-assessments as a leader. Can you share a little bit about what you're doing and what's your process on that?
Yeah, so I have my own, like I've developed over the years, I call like a leadership SWOT. And I like specific thing within myself. So like I've been doing this for a few years now, so it's a little easier, but through and looking at leadership, not just of other people, but also of both. That's a piece that's important too, because we can lead other people, I have to be able myself. So I always there. How am I doing into like what are some of my strengths? Like what am I really doing good at? What can I do in my, and I also know that that resonates within my team. And then also looking at my weakness as well, like what am I like not good at? Like where am I failing? Like what am I know I could do better at? Looking at your opportunities, I don't know what SWOT is, that's what I'm going through. Looking at your opportunities and what are my opportunities for advancement, and where are my opportunities to potentially do a little bit better, or some just develop, right? Like I have to
Mhm.
do my own development as well. And then looking at too, like what are some of the potential threats? Like none of us want to lose employees for no reason. None of us want to lose clients or miss out on opportunities. And so every year I go through my own SWOT analysis and look at how I'm performing as a leader of a company. And it's been super invaluable because sometimes we're thinking that the strategy, I know for a fact that people love to lean into, oh, I need a better strategy for the business. Oh, I need more leads. Oh, I need to have, like more people in the program. And it's the reason it's not doing is because algorithm, or the reason it's not doing is because I need to increase my ad spend or whatever it might be. And that could be true. But sometimes the very nature of yourself is what needs to change.
Mhm.
Like we lean so much into strategy, but we don't want to look at self. It's easy
Mhm.
to manipulate and control strategy. It's hard to look within.
Yeah. And a lot of times we don't want to blame ourselves. There has to be somebody else to blame, not us, right?
Yeah.
That just goes across all things in life. So,
Mm.
and then what do you do when your employees or your team evaluates you? Like how
Ooh.
open and and do you notice that you're like, "Oh, I didn't notice that in myself," or, "Oh yeah, she recognized the same thing I was," how's that going for you?
There have been definitely a few times where I've been a little bit shocked by the feedback that I've gotten. But I've always had this belief, and what I teach in one of my like leadership classes is feedback is to be used, not to be owned. Let me
Hmm.
say that one more time for someone who's
Yes.
probably been owning it. feedback is to be used, is not to be owned. And so I don't take it to mean something about me as a person, or to mean that it is permanent, but it is something, it's an opportunity for me to look into it to see what I can do. And so there's been a couple of times where I've been shell shocked by the feedback that I've gotten. However, I'm always so appreciative of it, right? And because just because something doesn't feel good doesn't mean it can't do good, you know? And I'd rather get that feedback from my team, number one, because they're people that interact with me on a daily basis, than I would from a customer, right? Or than I would from some random stranger, or, you know, amidst an opportunity that I had and I might embarrass myself, like, right? I'd rather get that feedback from them, the people who get to see me every day and who can see the improvements, than someone else. And so I respond I respond pretty calmly to that. I'm really open to it. And also too, when it's something that I know, it's literally, for me, it's just an accelerator of my action on it. So there may have been something that I identified that I knew, like, hey, like, I really kind of need to get a handle on this. But then if my team brings it up, I'm like, all right, great. Like, I got to prioritize this. Like, how can I change this? Let's like get some, immediate action or plans for development if it's something I don't know I need to learn. But that's pretty much how I handle it. I don't own it, because I think that really puts you in a position to have a lot of mindset issues
Yes.
as a business owner, for sure.
And what I like about it that you said that too is then it kind of opens the conversation between you and the team member, because then it's like, okay, is it really me, or is it like a them thing? Where are they not feeling seen, heard, or appreciated, or whatever that maybe some of those comments are coming from? Not to say that you can't do anything wrong. However, those are also great ways to have that open door policy. How do you create that open door policy as a leader?
So I would definitely say that my style of creating that open door policy, my own style, is I consistently ask for feedback. So when I'm working with someone who has a hard time taking feedback, or has a hard time, even starting that conversation, I say, make it a normal part of the journey. So every single month we have like a main, like, where everyone's on the team meeting call. And I ask for feedback every single time I'm gonna ask, is there anything to support you? I have different questions every single month, but there are like one or two that's always the same. And then there's a couple others that I'll ask throughout the year. But I make it a routine thing that for them, so that they understand that at any point I'm open and expecting you to voice the truth and your opinions and your needs. Sometimes it's not even about creating safety, because I think that in most cases, not always, but in most cases, people do feel safe with you to talk. The issue is that they haven't gotten comfortable with telling the truth in their own lives, right? So I've met so many folks who, like, they can't be honest with their spouse. They can't be honest with their family about things that they feel. And so that stuff is like a ripple effect into the workplace, and we don't realize that. And so giving them the opportunity to voice their opinions, to be honest and just say what they need to say, and letting them know that I'm open to it and I expect that from them, is so helpful. And it honestly, for me, it's always worked from corporate until now. I always let them know. I always ask those questions, and they just know, and they assume Tomasha's like hearing what I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
honestly, I really feel that with most people, they want that, that and the acknowledgement more than they do money. A lot of people just think, I'll just keep giving them bonuses. I'll just keep throwing money at them. And I'm like, that's not what a lot of people want. You know what I mean? They want that. You had mentioned a couple of things, like even what they go through. Do you do any mindset training, or either have them like read a books or anything like that?
So when I do one-to-ones, I wouldn't necessarily say I have them to read books or anything like that. I run what I call a lean green machine. However, when I do my one-to-one meetings with them, I do check in with them based on conversations that we had throughout the year, and just really making sure that, number one, they know that I see them as a person. How are you doing? I think so often we're missing that. Not like, how's work going? How are you doing?
Right.
How are you feeling right now? How did that last launch go for you, even though it was great? for the company, even though we hit all of our goals? How did you feel going through that? And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of mindset related work that we can do as leaders really just can be done through conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We think that it has to be so deep, right? Like so deep we can't sleep is what I call it. But in all honesty, if we can make it more of a conversation and less of like this therapy session,
Right.
you'll get it's so funny to me. If people want to turn it into therapy, I'm like, absolutely not. You'll get more feedback and more opportunity to help and serve them and develop them during their challenging times, even when things are good. And so that's what I typically do is I just kind of check in with them mindset wise when I'm doing like one-to-ones, and I make sure that they understand that I'm here to listen to them. And when things are good, when they're bad, when they're unsure, I want them to know that.
I love that. So how do you set that boundary when it's like, oh, wait, this is not therapy, or, oh, this is now I'm the boss, like we have to draw the line somewhere. Do you have those boundaries?
Oh, for sure. So I have a background actually working in mental health, and so in that field, and we got to really understand. I got to really understand what that looks like through that work, and then also I've taken some development courses as well since I've been an entrepreneur. But my main thing is that I will definitely hear them out, but I will also recommend that they look into resources, and that's something I think also leaders need to look into as well. It's like whether even if you're not offering a benefits package, right? I think people only think about it when they have employees.
Mm-hmm.
You yourself need to be aware of what resources are out there. And so I have the different lines, like, the different like national lines that people can reach out to for help. And what are some of the free resources and websites that folks can go to? Have those resources readily available just so that you can share them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I understand that it's not my responsibility to ensure that they get the help, but it would be great, right? It would be great if I would give them the nudge and let them know as a reminder that you can access help.
Yes, yes. And of course, we're talking to a more extreme level. However, I
Yeah.
feel like even in today's environment, and especially if you're an online business, everybody's working at home. And some people, it gets lonely. It's kind of like
Yeah.
you never leave the house. It becomes, you feel like, what do you call that? Like cabin fever, and it's depressing because
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
interacting with other humans, right? So all
Mhm.
this comes into play. So
Yeah.
it's more, and then what happens? It's that ripple effect, because then it comes in, it first kind of, gets with the team and then with your customers. So in order for everybody to kind of be on this, we definitely need to be on the lookout for that, for
Mhm.
sure. For
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, for
Love
sure.
that.
100%.
Are there any other strengths that you would say a leader needs to have? Because we already know, like, what we talked about here, and being a great leader and getting our teams to jump on board with our vision and things, and the systems that help them reach, I guess, greater levels of performance.
Yeah.
Like, what are some other things that you would recommend?
Yeah. So I would definitely say that a leader needs to be a good learner. I
Mm-hmm.
feel that we often find ourselves learning out of reactiveness instead of resourcefulness
Mm-hmm.
or being prepared. And we need to make sure that learning is an active part of our strategy. And oftentimes it comes more as a reaction than a plan. And so we need to do a really good job of being good learners and knowing where our gaps are, like knowing where we actually do need to have a better understanding of things. Because I'm all for outsourcing and delegating, but there are things that I think that you could make better investments when you start to outsource and understand, like if you take the time to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of that, and being resourceful and like being a good learner, I would definitely say too, leaders need to understand how to set their own pace, which may involve slowing down. And oftentimes we see slowness as a sacrifice when literally slowness could literally be a means to success.
Mm-hmm.
We have, attributed fast, quick, um, and the terms like scale and quantum leap and things like that to mean that that's how we have to move. And sometimes business, a specific project that you're working on, the needs of your team, the needs of your community, and sometimes just even your own personal needs will require the speed to decrease.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be okay with that and work through our mind about what speed means to us.
I love that you said that. And this year, I like, I'm very anxious and I'm very go, 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 right? That's how I've always been. And then what happens is I get burned out. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I end up sleeping the whole entire weekend or something like that, right? Or I'm just exhausted that I'm like, oh my God, I can't keep my eyes open, literally. Like, and then it's a waste of time because you can't concentrate or whatever. And this year, we're only on January 18th as the recording of this, but I literally have, for the first time, I think ever, and I am 51 years old, realized in my life that it's okay if I do not do that. It's okay if I check out today at 3:00. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm listening to my body. I feel so much more calm, at peace, and more focused when I sit down to do my task, right? So I never thought that was possible because I was brought up to think you got to work hard, you got to go. And if I want to have that quantum leap, or if I want to, yes, all the things you were saying, I'm like, oh my God, that's everything that I thought.
Yeah, no, I was at this speaking at this event a few months ago, and I explained, someone asked about that, a specific thing. Like, sometimes I feel like there's so much going on and things can seem hard, and I'm just not quite sure. Like, I feel like I'm always constantly sacrificing myself, or like I get kind of left behind. And, people need to understand that heart and happiness can coexist if you prioritize them both.
Yes.
Right? Like, you can work hard and be extremely happy personally. Like, I work hard. I don't hide that. I don't tell people I work 2 or 4 hours a week. I'm very open about the fact that I love working hard. That's a part of my business. But I also am very happy, and I take very frequent vacations, more than the average. And I know exactly what I need. And so, like, my CEO health and happiness is a non-negotiable.
Yes.
But I make it that through every step of the way. Every schedule that we have, my availability, whether I accept a speaking engagement or not, what time it's available, like, they're all the little small, like, nuances. My team understands that, like, sometimes it can be very difficult to schedule things with me, but that's because my health and my happiness is a non-negotiable. And so if we learn to do that, if leaders learn to do that as well, make it a non-negotiable. Like, I can't accept anything else, because you run the business, right? Like, it's always interesting to me. We're entrepreneurs. You have a small business. You have all the control. Meanwhile, you're just as unhappy as you were working for someone else.
Right.
That you were going to have all this freedom, and you literally created a box, right? A cage for yourself. So I think for sure making all of that, like making your health and your happiness a non-negotiable every step of the way, will help you prevent from, like, ending up there 10, 15 years from now and being like, wow, I really didn't have to do that. It's
Right.
gonna be
Exactly.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. And I hope that everyone listening heard that. And if not, rewind, because I was taught, I think maybe more than 5 times, that you can only focus on one of, like, those 4 quadrants in your life, like where it's business, health, relationships, whatever the other one was, that you can only do one at a time. So I lived with that belief for so long. Like, oh, I can't do my health and this. Oh, I can't have fun. And you know what I'm saying? Yes. Why can't it be and? It doesn't have to be, one or the other. What is one thing that we can start doing today to kind of set us in motion to living this kind of harmony kind of life?
One thing you can start doing today is asking yourself, and this is a very raw conversation to have, but, like, as you currently are and as you currently stand, are you happy with yourself? Are you happy with yourself? Are you happy with your situation? Are you truly happy with the structure and the flow and the nuance of your day-to-day life, both as a business owner and as a person? Are you happy with the way that they intertwine? And if you say no to some of those things, start connecting where the no comes from, and have a plan on how you're going to eliminate some of those things and or shift them. But start asking yourself, because folks will say things to you like, happiness isn't measurable, and I beg to, because I see it. They'll say, well, They want to sell you the results of the revenue, and we want to sell you the big launches and sell
Yes.
you the returns that you're going to get. And everyone wants to see that return on investment. But I want you to ask yourself, if in 5 to 10 years from now, how you would feel about the ROI, meaning your return on inability to live and do the things that you wanted then, based on decisions that you made today.
Mm, so good. That was so good. Oh my gosh. I love that. Because that always came from like, what's the reason I can't be happy right now? Even though I don't have this yet, even though I haven't hit this revenue, even though like I could still be happy with what I've gotten so far. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So good. Okay, we're going to get into Michelle's hot minute. So I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions. So just answer the first thing that comes to mind. Don't be nervous. I can see your face. Okay. Let me set the alarm. Okay. Ready? What is your guilty pleasure?
Ice cream.
Would you rather be forced to sing along or dance to every single song you hear?
Sing along.
Favorite way to de-stress?
Oh, gosh. Music.
You're like, I have to pick one. Would you rather be chronically underdressed or overdressed?
Ooh, under.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
What is your favorite house chore?
Dishes.
Where is your next travel destination?
Atlanta.
And what tells you most about a person?
Oh, what tells me most about a person? Oh man. Hmm, I would say the choice.
Love it. Love it. That was so much fun. I appreciate
Yeah.
you so much for coming on the show today. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, so my playground, I love it. I have a good time over there. It's on Instagram. You can come and follow me at Tomasha Suber. We have a blast. It's fun, good stuff. Yeah, come find me there.
Ooh, I love it. Thank you once again. I appreciate you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. The power of leadership and systems with Tomasha. Definitely go check her out. I'll drop where you can find her in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, let's grow your business together.